In the quiet moments between midnight prayers and Sunday meals, one child often carries the entire family's unspoken sins on the shoulders of a childish navel. That child, the family's silent scar, is the sin eater in disguise, tasting the bitterness others avoid. Think of the household as a fragile mosaic. Every tile holds a memory, a fear, a secret. Only one piece can be the crack that absorbs the crack. That piece becomes the family shield, a living foam that steadies the rest of the structure. But in doing so, it turns the light stickham of guilt into a shadow that lingers forever. If you've ever felt that invisible weight unevenly perched on your lap, this video will show you how that weight is assigned, what hidden mechanisms keep it in place, and how breaking the pattern starts a new, healthier rhythm, so you can finally breathe without carrying the family's darkness. The family sin eater. How groups use one person to dump their collective anxiety and secrets. A flicker of silence crawls across the kitchen table when a storm of words erupts, and the youngest sibling, often the quietest, remains still, shoulders swallowing the storm. This denial is not mere coincidence. It is a ritualized operation of the family psyche. The elder, the most vulnerable in emotional terms, is transformed into a vessel for frustration, a living sin eater who absorbs anxiety that the rest of the clan cannot or chooses not to confront. The mechanism starts with recognition of the unspoken truth. The family perceives the need for equilibrium. When a parent is frustrated by a debt or a child's poor grades, the conversation spirals into accusations. Without an internal defense, the structure threatens collapse. The sin eater emerges in that moment, quietly conceding with a nod, a verbal silence, or an apologetic glance. That small act carries the entire load, allowing the group to move on without rocking the fragile balance. In practice, a teenager might say, "First I'm sorry, first didn't," while the parents, relieved, switch the topic to dinner plans. The teen sincerity becomes a glue that holds the family together despite underlying tensions. Neuro-archaeologists would describe this as a transfer of effective charge. The child's brain becomes a noisy repository of negative affect. Studies on familial emotional contagion show that children who are hypothesized as scapegoats exhibit heightened cortisol levels during family disputes. An observable example occurs in a household where the mother is rarely angry. She permits the son to do everything from taking the trash to volunteering at the school. Meanwhile, the mother, overwhelmed by work stress, directs her frustration toward him. The son's acceptance of this role becomes rhythmical. He listens, nods, and does what he sees required, while the emotional weight dissipates like a runoff. When the sin eater front is removed, the family feels a sudden pressure. Whispers of resentment surface, secrets that the child had silently carried erupt, and relationships undergo tumultuous shifting. The family shield that held their anxieties together is broken, and the coupling of mental load illuminates a new crisis. How did everyone recognize the trap? For some families, the break leads to therapy where the scapegoating pattern is addressed, and the child transitions from boundary stayer to boundary initiator. In other cases, the pattern propagates across generations, typifying a modern-day admonition. The child becomes a policing tool for adult insecurities. Contrast the sin eater with the blame glue, an even subtler mechanism. Here, a caretaking figure, often a sibling, takes under their wing a mistrusting parent's private guilt. The exchange invites the house to forget that the pain exists at all. This subtlety demonstrates that families possess layers of erosion, with each level a different metaphor: the dazzling shield, the sticky glue, the silent reservoir. Indeed, the sympathetic child sincerely believes they are protecting their house, as if they are an architectural arch that absorbs the wind. Current interventions focus on making these covert roles visible. Cognitive appointments encourage parents to ask, "Who am first venting at?" Instead of an abrupt interrogation, counselors suggest mapping emotional turnover in journaling or couples therapy. The aim is to identify the person that has become the repository of fear. Once identified, the family reorganizes communication. The hurt person receives a voice, and the sharer learns to express anxiety in a way that does not destabilize the group. When children step out of the sin eater role, they often develop healthier coping strategies, assertive communication, boundary setting, and emotional regulation techniques. This practice, deeply rooted in the current perception of family silos, remains relevant for relevant populations. Parents juggling gig economies, blended families with custody negotiations, or households where preventable stress, such as parental health anxiety, attacks daily life. Observing how a weightless child becomes an emotional albino in the traffic household suggests that modern anthropology of domestic routines admits these shadows. Most families, unaware of their internal tectonic plates, unwittingly use one of their members as insurance policy. The check in the corner of a living room, hidden behind a couch, is a testament that the sin eater is an active participant in maintaining calm. Detecting that participant, keeping the change alive, and then dismantling the pattern is the path toward a family that no longer hinges on a single individual to carry the universe. The glue of blame. Why your family needed you to be the problem just to stay together. When a family turns a kid into a living cautionary tale, the quiet terror of that child stitches the household together. In practice, the youngest, the one born with a limp or a nosebleed, is chased into the center of a blame-shifting ritual. The rest simply nod along. Small rituals, like muttering a short apology when the teenager spills wine on a mother's favorite dress, fingering subtle, and the family reunited. When a single member consistently bears the brunt of criticism, the rest of the household finds comfort in a shared narrative. They're the problem, so we are the problem. Accept them. The accusation functions as a litmus test. If it falls on one person, the weirdness dissolves for everybody else. This pattern creates a tense equilibrium that keeps everyone from confronting deeper anxieties. The truth is that most families of everyday people spend their days balancing a spectrum of fears: financial strain, divorce rumors, a critical boss, the next child graduation. To manage, they deploy what psychologists call an emotion reservoir. That reservoir is often one person, and the rest of the family pours their worries into that person's shoulders. The child becomes a convenient harbor for anger, disappointment, or fear. The parents tuck away a silent stare, siblings whisper, "You know, he just saw a teacher, how will first earn my share?" Only by shedding a blamed persona does the rest sweat out the anxiety in collective breathing. Call it the sin eater for a moment. In folklore, a sin eater took on the guilt of a family so the rest could celebrate their harvest. Modern families, hip but no less deadly, assign a single scapegoat as their own moral alchemy. The blame glue makes the family feel less seismic. A quarrel over a missed deadline feels like an external problem, not an internal psychic fracture. The guilt lies elsewhere, the rest floating further from cutting deep wounds. Evidence from contemporary observing studies shows that when one child is labeled with a persistent grievance, say, a cheat accusation or an unspoken medical condition, parental affection skews away, while sibling affection crystallizes around the sanctioned protector. That tight skein keeps family politics from splintering. The remarks are simple: don't argue about dad's taxes. We deal with mom like we do with you. The mother's quiet brow is a silent decree. The teen's quick apology a response that lets the unit breathe. It feels like safety, though it silently erodes the scapegoated individual's sense of value. The father's occasional misplaced "you're the problem" now acts less as a cruelty and more like a pacifying stone in the messy, beating heart of the family. The threat detection bias. How being a scapegoat rewired your brain to always expect an attack. Imagine a child who hears each offhand remark as a phantom thunderclap, a subtle shift in the family air that feels like a looming storm. Neuroscientists have mapped this reaction to the amygdala, the brain's primal alarm system. In families where blame is glued to one face, the child's amygdala overlearns the trigger. A study of high-conflict households revealed that these children show a 30% increase in amygdala activity when listening to neutral conversations, a clear sign that their brains have rewired to read danger when none exists. Their cortisol levels rise faster and longer after even mild criticism, reinforcing a cycle of hyper-alertness. Families often employ the scapegoat like a living, breathing sin eater. The name may ring distant folklore, but in daily life the child becomes the vessel that absorbs every mistake comment. Each time the blame is projected, the family's collective anxiety drops by a measurable amount. Researchers looking at household cohesion found that when a single child bears the negativity, overall conflict resolution improves by about 15–20% compared with families that spread blame evenly. The neurochemical reward, the dopamine hit that follows a successful conflict avoidance, is skewed toward that single member, as the rest feel a sense of relief. This bias doesn't just heighten perception, it changes journalistic memory shaping. A teenager can recall a parent's whispered warning about a test and instantly imagine a fail-grade catastrophe that never materialized. Over time, the brain trades off normal life rhythms for a perpetual be ready. A simple interaction, a sibling's joke, can trigger an automatic scramble. Do first spill my pizza on the carpet? Will mom throw me out of the house? The child's brain rewires itself to preset every event as a potential attack. The family shield, like any tool, remains double-edged. While the blame glue reduces the worry on other shoulders, it creates a sustainable stress environment for the scapegoat. Studies on long-term outcomes show that these individuals often develop chronic anxiety disorders, a pattern that can extend into adulthood where they unconsciously play the same role in new families. In short, the threat detection bias is the neural equivalent of a homegrown alarm that never stops after it's wired in. The shame identity: why you grew up believing you were bad when you were actually just a shield for others. Picture a quiet corner of the living room where the echo of a slammed door strikes a child's heart more sharply than any storm outside. In that moment, the child's pulse rises as the family's anxieties, whispers of work, sickness, financial strain, converge on a single point. The brain of that child begins to map these external pressures into a personal narrative. First and the problem. Neuroimaging shows that when a person is repeatedly tasked with absorbing others' frustration, the anterior cingulate cortex lights up, signaling error prediction and conflict monitoring. This neural signature often solidifies quickly into a shame identity that stays trapped in the mind long after the other family members have forgotten. Shame functions as a binding agent, a kind of social adhesive known in family dynamics as blame glue. When the rest of the parents or siblings feel their own roles threatened, they transfer the burden onto the young person, insisting that any consequence is a reflection of that child's character. The child becomes the sin eater of the household, willing the moral debt away from adults. In practice, this translates to whispered accusations after homework mistakes or a misstep in a sports game. Parents might say, "You're always making excuses, or if you had just listened, the teacher wouldn't have reported you. These statements are not merely criticism. They rewire the child's self-perception until they view themselves as the root of instability. Family cohesion studies demonstrate that when collective anxiety spikes, say, during a job loss or illness, resilience often drops. The shift in emotional temperature is absorbed by the lowest threshold, the youngest or most vulnerable member. A 2020 experimental study with sibling groups showed that in families where one child consistently receives disparaging remarks, the child's reported anxiety scores exceeded the group average by 30%. Moreover, social cognition assessments revealed that their ability to interpret neutral comments as hostile was significantly higher. The family uses the child as a family shield, diverting tension away from bored, frustrated parents or older siblings. The shield's presence offers a tangible target, reducing the nebulous anxiety that otherwise might sizzle like a static frequency inside each adult's mind. Practical clues surface in daily rituals. A teenager who is always the last to leave the table might recognize that their presence is too much. A sound cue, such as a once innocent family joke that turns sarcastic, can trigger a moment of self-devaluation. Parents might, without realizing, say, "If you weren't such a mess, we wouldn't have to deal with the whole family's drama." The recurring phrase becomes a meme, echoing across dinner tables and bedrooms. In this environment, the child builds an unspoken contract. First must stay compliant or first will destabilize us. The loop deepens, shielding the family from confronting their own insecurities, while the child bears scars not of their own making. Breaking the cycle begins with the detection of these dim patterns. When a parent notices that the child's self-talk becomes steeped in guilt, a question can be posed. Who is the real source of this frustration? This simple linguistic shift, combined with intentional empathy, can gradually dismantle the shame identity. Clinical psychologists recommend family therapy sessions that use role reversal exercises, allowing adults to voice grievances directly to their partners, not the child. The process is messy, but the payoff is the dismantling of the blame glue. Once that adhesive loosens, the family loses the illusion that a single child can absorb the weight of collective distress, and the child's narrative shifts from first and bad to first and part of a larger whole that can thrive together. Breaking the cycle. Practical steps to stop carrying the darkness that belongs to someone else. Half of adults admit they still carry guilt that never was theirs. The weight of that invisible burden can feel like a dark cocoon wrapped around the heart. When a single child assumes the role of sin eater, the family discards its own fears and projects them onto that small, vulnerable vessel. This psychological trick, functioning as a family shield, lets everyone else breathe a little easier, but the child becomes a self-sacrificing psychopath. The glue, the blame glue, sticks the family together, but it cracks under the strain of unshared pain. Stop being the human anchor by noting 3 concrete, low-risk actions that unburden the mind. First, write a brief, honest list of instances where you were blamed instead of held accountable. Keep it factual. My brother argued, first said yes, my mom shouted. By separating the event from the emotional overload, you see the pattern clearly. Second, practice speaking your truth with a safe confidant. Choose someone who listens without judgment, a therapist, low-stakes friend, or a sober support group. Start with short checks. First, felt pressured here. Listen to the scent of discomfort. It signals where loneliness sits. Third, create a boundary ritual. Announce the line with simple language. First, am finished with this conversation. Let's pause. Repetition turns ritual into muscle memory. When the blame glue snaps, it means the family is rebalancing its anxiety load. Expand the second level of breaking the cycle, repairing the internal world. Experiment with self-compassion breathing. Imagine a gentle stream washing over your shoulders as you exhale, releasing shame. When the memory of carrying darkness rises, let it be a wave that recedes. Pair this with journaling that focuses on achievements, no matter how trivial. Share a good deed daily. First, simplified my siblings' homework. Notice the shift, the storm lessens. One more practical tip. Learning to say no is a radical act of self-preservation. Begin with tiny refusals. Decline a last-minute request at work or politely decline additional household chores. Track each refusal. See that the set of boundaries expands and the family shield loosens its pressure. Finally, surround yourself with alliances that recognize your autonomy. Join modern community or online groups where people iteratively unlearn the scapegoat role. In such forums, exchange stories that reflect shared disquiet, but focus on personal growth. The collective then becomes a collection of independent narratives, no longer merely one person's dark vessel. The circle of participants slowly disassembles that ancient sin-eater myth. Now the silence is healing, not a prison. Did you know that in many families the youngest child can end up carrying the weight of a house full of secrets? That shocking truth is just the tip of the iceberg. For those who have felt the pull of the misunderstood, the family is quietly polishing off their collective anxieties onto a single, fragile scapegoat. We've traced the circuit of guilt, the *** blame glue *** that bonds the family together, the *** family shield *** that deflects shame by sheltering other members, and the slow-burning fire of the *** sin-eater *** who absorbs sins that would otherwise scorch the rest of the house. Key takeaways ***. 1. The scapegoat isn't chosen by chance. It's a deliberate strategy in the family's unconscious playbook. 2. By shouldering blame, the child steadies the group, making everyone feel safer in a way that keeps the family intact. 3. This role comes with a double-edged sword. The child gains a sense of importance, but at the cost of persistent anxiety, low self-esteem, and an ever-present fear of stepping out of line. 4. The pattern is buried deep in the family's brain chemistry, a fossilized script that only changes when we uncover and rewrite it. If you've watched the life of the misunderstood with a new lens, dear viewer, you're no longer a silent observer, you're armed with a map. You can begin to untangle how the *** blame glue *** slides its way into your own thoughts and start flipping the script. So here's your next step. Hit that subscribe button, ring the bell, and drop a comment telling us what shadow you'd like to lift next. In our upcoming episode, we'll dive into practical rituals that help you step out of the shadowed footstep and reclaim your own story, employing nothing but the tiniest but most powerful neuroactivating techniques to rewrite the family DNA. Until then, keep digging, keep questioning, and remember, the family shield that once protected you can now become a launchpad for your own breakthrough.